You lie.
Along with all the other work, we're having to have our ducts replaced for the AC.
Are you putting in geese?
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 474 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Terry Mixon. Joining me, my co-host and partner in crime, Paul E. Cooley. How you doing, man?
What's up?
Don't you have to have a bud if you're going to use that phrase?
No. We don't mention that beverage in my house.
Are you more of a Heineken man?
We don't mention that one either. There are some things we just do not do.
So which beer kind of guy are you?
I like stouts and porters.
All right. That's high class.
Primarily. So
That's nothing wrong with that.
Guinness will work in a pinch, but I prefer something a bit stronger.
You prefer something that you have to use a spoon to stir up, scoop out.
That's right, man. If you can balance a dime on the head, then it is a good beer.
All right. I'm not going to argue that point. I don't drink anymore, so I will accept your wisdom as gospel in this case.
I have wisdom. Wow. That's the first time I've ever heard.
I'm trying to be generous here, sport.
But why? Why would you bother doing that now?
It's got to be a trap. Why do you see Admiral Akbar? It's a trap.
Yeah. With that, I have absolutely no doubt. I'm sure it's a trap.
So what you been up to, sport? How's your writing wink went?
Getting about, not getting enough, but I'm getting words every day. I've got day job screaming at me, so I'm gonna have to start burning the candle for a while. But man, been fighting through medication changes and everything else. So hopefully we've got things back on track and I can crank out the rest of this goddamn book. I've got it all set up. I just need to fucking write it. I just need to just have a day where I get 8,000 to 10,000 words and the damn book will be done. So, I just need to crank on that. And I haven't been able to touch it today because of all the day job insanity. So that's just, I'll have to do that tonight after I finish editing this episode. So that's on my list. And I'm leaving for Nashville on Friday. So I don't get back till Monday. So hopefully I'll get some writing done this weekend. Wouldn't be the first time I've gotten up before everybody and written 1,000 words. So plus, airports, lounging in airports, not much to do. So hopefully.
So what are you going to Nashville for?
We're going to Nashville to visit a friend, and we're also going to watch attend the Texans game on Sunday. So
just out of curiosity, you keep hearing the news about all the empty seats here. Have you noticed an increase in empty seats at the Texans game?
Yeah, but it didn't happen until J.J. Watt and the Deshaun Watson and Merciless went out. This is basically Houston fans just kind of went, fucking
we're screwed.
We're screwed. Fuck it. So that's been the major, I think the major difference in this town anyway. Once those guys got injured, it was just like, there's no point. The season's over, which they're right. Season is over, essentially.
Well, damn it, Jim.
Yeah, we're going to probably win in basketball. We won in baseball, and we'll probably win in soccer, and then football will come in dead last in our division. That's how this is going to work.
Smells like most years.
It smells like Houston sports. So other than that, I've been fighting with, I kind of stopped getting recording done because I decided it was taking me away from other things. And now Pondy's working on the cover. I saw the mock-up for the Gares Inferno cover. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Awesome.
So it's going to look like urban fantasy, which means there's a chick on the cover. There's going to be some supernatural shit on there. And,
Is this chick going to look like, Princess Ardala?
Huh? Who?
You don't know who that is?
The name sounds familiar. But
You ever watch the original Buck Rogers movie with Gil Gerard?
Oh, okay. That's what was the name of their race or planet or whatever?
She was from the Empire of Draconia.
That's right, Draconians. Yes, the Draconians. No.
I wrote a little. I thought about Princess Kelsey meeting up with Princess Ardala and wrote a like 2-paragraph line of her being in horrified awe of the intergalactic space slut.
Galactic space slut. You know what? That needs to be the title of your erotica book.
Holy
Galactic
shit.
space slut. If you can have a book out there called So and So's Haunted Vagina, why can't you have Intergalactic Space Slut?
I haven't looked on Amazon, but I would be totally astonished if that book did not already exist. Because if it doesn't, it should.
You're right. You should get on writing that.
I've got too many other writing projects to get to. I don't have time for that one.
Intergalactic Space Slut. I sent the cover to Brent to get his opinion, and his response was CSI Manila. I was just sitting there going, you dick. But, Pondy did all this research, and I did research too, and kind of both agreed that, giving it more of an urban fantasy feel rather than, typical Cooley horror feel or that kind of thing would be good for this book. So
I think that'll sell more.
And that's the plan. We'll see if this works. If it does, then we can kind of go forward with, I can go forward with my plans for the other books in this universe, and keep cranking them out, and they'll be a lot easier to write than Derelict has been, because I won't have to deal with all the baggage. It'll be completely different baggage. So
you've got baggage in everything you write, Spud.
Yeah, I know, and I really need to stop doing that.
And it's always different too. Like, oh, I've got this problem with this series. Really? You didn't have that problem with this other series? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it never freaking ends. So yes, Paul will not be writing another Derelict, not in this way. Paul will not be writing another Black, not the way he did it. Yeah,
how is it going to change? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, I've said this before. I did not intend to have those two side books in the Black series. The Black was supposed to be a one-off, and I just wanted to tie up those threads, and in the process created more problems for myself from writing the fourth book, which is fine. But I wish I had planned it out to a little more carefully as to how that was going to work. And obviously with Derelict, I should have just written the whole damn book before putting any of it out there. It would have been so much easier. So that's basically where things are at. So I'm not going to repeat those same mistakes again.
You don't have to be afraid of leaving the things just hanging out there, blowing in the wind at the end of a book. People will read the next one because you've left things hanging out there, blowing in the wind.
Yeah, there's difference between having a huge arc and then having sub arcs that actually finish. With Derelict, there are no sub arcs that finish.
That is indeed a problem, but it ended okay.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the problem with Tomb as well. It also ends with, basically it's like, join us next season to see if anybody survives.
Will anyone survive? Tune in next week. We need to have a guy with
tune
an
in 7
voice.
months from now when Paul finishes the book.
We need organ music and an announcer guy.
Yeah, I've actually been looking at adding sound effects to the show, but I've decided that it's just not worth the trouble.
Yeah, don't go down that road. That's a rabbit hole you better climb right back out of.
Yeah, pretty much. So basically trying to wrap up Derelict as always, and trying to get this book done and Gary's Inferno ready for press, and playing around with Scrivener 3.
I'm looking forward to picking up the Windows version of it when it comes out in a couple of months. I've got version 1 on the Windows side, so when it upgrades, I'll pay the upgrade fee and check it out and see what the new feature set is.
Well, the biggest thing that I've noticed so far, besides the fact they tweaked the UI, which is both good and bad, they now support printing, like designing for 6x9 trade paperback.
Huh, that's awesome.
So
Too bad I've got
there's
Vellum. Oh,
right, and I also have to figure out if Vellum's going to do what I need it to do, which it looks like it will. So I've got to once I finish up Derelict, then there's going to be some playing around with those things to get the TPB ready. Big thing is just get the damn cover. I think if I get the damn cover, my ass will get into gear on recording. But I need to finish Derelict. I've got no money coming in for writing to speak of, so I've got to get that shit wired. So that's also why I got to bust my ass on the day job, so we can pay bills.
you'll
Always
manage it,
nice.
man. You'll get yourself back up to speed. You'll make it happen.
Yeah. What about you, man? Besides doing Ursat's home repair, what else?
Jesus. This
And learning
last
how to
week,
spell dinosaur.
yeah, if I could only learn how to spell check, things would be so much better. Why did you have to wait till the end of the episode to tell me it was misspelled?
Because otherwise it wouldn't have been funny.
You know what? I don't care. I'm just going to leave it spelled wrong. Because that's how I roll. This last week has not had a big ton of writing going on because we're finally gearing up to do all the home repairs, have the walls replaced, the roof replaced, the flooring replaced, the AC ducts replaced. So there's been a lot of running around doing that, things revolving around that. There's been a lot of other things that are happening, but no writing, which is sad because it's putting me a week behind where I wanted to be in getting the stuff out that I want to get out. So it looks like the next Empire book will still fall probably right after Christmas, might be around the new year by the time it's all said and done. But it is what it is. By the time it's out, I'll finally have gotten the rest of my life hopefully back in order with all the disruption of having people come in and tear stuff apart.
Yeah, it's such a pain in the ass, man. I remember when we were having drywall done. We had our outside done many years ago. It is a real pain in the ass to try and focus when there's hammers banging and people in and out and saws blaring and God only knows what else. And you feel like you should be like at least somewhat looking over what's going on. So plus
you're going to be stuck with it. You better keep your eye on it.
Yeah, and then of course there's all the antsiness and anxiety about is this really going to be worth the money we're paying?
Yeah, that's always a problem too. Other things that have happened behind enemy lines, the audio version is submitted to ACX. So 2-3 weeks down the road, it should be available for purchase. So more Veronica goodness. Veronica has looked over the numbers for My Humanity Unlimited saga, the Liberty Station, Freedom Express, and Tree of Liberty, and decided that it makes sense to go ahead and proceed with those books. So I'll have more coming out in that series. So I'm very pleased about that.
You're very pleased about that?
I'm very pleased about that. What else is going on? I have a new book out. I almost forgot. I have the second book that I published with Glenn. It came out on Monday. Whoop. So it's available for your listening pleasure. Other than that, or not listening pleasure yet. Yeah.
Reading pleasure.
Reading pleasure. Reading pleasure. I'm so focused on audiobooks right now.
Yeah, I can understand that.
My list of audiobooks that I have to listen to have grown to 800 and some odd hours of listening. Will I ever catch up?
No.
No, I will not.
Because you're going to keep adding crap. You'll just keep adding books.
It's my to be listened to stack. Now it will never end.
Right.
I figure I'm almost at 60,000 words in the current novel that I'm writing. So if I can actually focus myself, I'll finish it up in 7 to 10 days.
Cool.
So not so far away. Things are finally happening. The characters are finally going somewhere, and things are starting to go wrong for them.
No, really? Things going wrong for characters?
I know. It's just terrible.
I was thinking about that the other night as I was putting some more stuff into Derelict. I was like, oh, well, I need them to go do this and this, that, and the other. That's too easy of a win. So then I added some new complication, and now it's completely torqued everybody involved with it because now they all have to deal with this complication. So
it sounds like the beginning of the book that I'm still writing on. I introduced a major plot complication, and while some aspects of it may go a little bit more smoothly than they could have, if I had them go badly, they wouldn't have ever left for Terra. It took half the book to get things in order.
Yeah,
because I disrupted everything.
There's just no hope for you. You were just bent on absolute destruction and terrible things. It's why I like you so much. I respect that. The characters might not, but I as a fellow creator, I can definitely respect that.
I sure can't wait to find out what the readers think about the edition that comes along in this book. Boy, does it complicate things going forward.
Yeah, you're just yeah. Well, one of the scenes I was writing for Derelict is they do something and they immediately, the humans get locked into combat with something else. So I've got Black, the AI, watching what's going on with what they set off. So it's going to give me a chance to really describe it in ways that none of the humans have a chance to do. So we just basically, they're starting this battle and I can flip over to a completely different thing and set up what's going to happen next when they finish this battle.
Well, you know what you need to do, since this is an AI and a computer doing this, you can have it going, I think the odds of their ultimate survival just went down by a full 15 points. And they weren't that great to begin with.
Black has been known to say or think things like that without actually saying them to the humans. That's kind of one of the fun things about about writing the AIs the way I've chosen to, is that they can have those moments.
It reminds me sort of something that I read in a book years ago. Couldn't tell you who wrote it or what the series was, but there was one particular race of warlike people that are aliens that communicate through a translator, and their communication technology goes on the fritz, and the machine actually starts translating what they're really saying. And so all the horrible insults and death threats start coming through instead of the flowery language that the translator was putting it as.
See, that reminds me of a scene. I can't remember if it's Restaurant at the End of the Universe or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but God, what is his name? Shit. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he gets pissed off about something or is surprised by something and screams something out. And then Douglas Adams is at that particular or at that exact moment, a wormhole opened and transferred this sound to these two galactic warring races, have been warring with one another for millions of years, and was seen as an insult to both tribes. So it touched off a war between them, and then they finally figured out the message came from a wormhole. So they saddle up to go destroy whoever sent the message.
What could possibly go wrong?
And they finally get to Earth, and due to a slight misunderstanding of size and proportion, they all their massive warship killing machines get eaten by a dog.
Woof.
What could go wrong?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, something like that. Well, should we mosey on?
That's about all we can do at this pace. Mosey,
yeah. Not even capable of, strutting my funky stuff. I just kind of mosey.
Well, listeners, today you're going to have a treat because we're having a special guest on to talk to you. And I think you're going to really enjoy what we have to say. So let's, without any further ado, let's cut in and talk to our good friend, Josh Hayes. And joining us now is our guest, Josh Hayes. How are you doing, Josh?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad I'm here finally on this side of the mic talking with you.
It's awesome to have you. It's been, I think, somewhere about 9 months since you guys from the Keystroke Medium had us on. Had me on anyway. Sorry, Paul.
Well, Well, we had to have the better of the two hosts on.
I'm right here. I can hear you.
Oh, I didn't realize his headset. I didn't realize his headset was on.
There's no selective mute button in this, I'm afraid. So
Sorry about that.
Oh, there is now.
Kick him off the show. We're done.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to our show and showing us your face. I'm sorry you couldn't bring Scott with you because I'm sure he would have mocked you in some way, and that would have been fun.
He that's what he's really good at. Yeah.
That's what a good co-host is,
Well, Josh, why
mock you.
don't we start off by letting you introduce yourself to the listeners and going and telling us about yourself and the Keystroke Medium and what that is.
Okay, so I'm Josh Hayes. I'm a science fiction writer. I have my own series that I write that's not short stories is Second Star, and that's basically a science fiction reimagining of Peter Pan and Neverland, and Peter Pan is the bad guy. And that is a series that I had an idea for and then thought, yes, this is going to work this way, and completely fouled the presentation. And well, we can get into that later. Then I also have a whole bunch of short stories written in an anthology. Terry, we were in an anthology with you for a few credits more for the Four Horsemen universe. And I run a podcast, Keystroke Medium, like you said. It's a live video cast on YouTube, and then we port it into iTunes and Podbean on the audio side. And we like to do author interviews. We have a live audience that comes and usually partakes in general shenanigans and tomfoolery, and it's a good time.
Tomfoolery is always worthwhile.
Yes, it is, and really it kind of brings a different level of I don't know what to the show that there's a lot of like your show. It's you, me, and Paul, and we're all sitting here. We're gonna have a conversation, and when you have 15 other people like with text scrolling down, and you're trying to read what they're saying and trying to pay attention, and they say over, and you're laughing over here, and it sometimes it gets out of hand. We had 8 guests on. We had 8 people on the show.
Oh, God.
We had 2 shows today. We had Casey Azell on for our regularly scheduled show, and then we had Sam Peralta and Chris Porteau and Risa Walker and Jennifer Ellis, and I can't think of his name. It's a rep for Pets for Vets, and then Ralph and me and Scott. And so we had 8 people on Google Hangouts for 1 hour of a show, and it was
chaos.
It went really well, but I was really nervous about it. So,
well, I have to tell you that we stole your idea of way you do your live cast for doing our once a month Patreon feed. We invite our patrons on to a private link and do that exact same sort of thing for them once a month.
Oh, very cool.
And the ones that show up are obnoxious.
It's totally true.
Yeah, wait till I have to read their names off at the end. There's no telling what kind of surprises they've left for
about
me.
Half of them have taken to starting putting quotes in the middle of their names of embarrassing things for Paul to say.
That's awesome. I might need to sign up for your Patreon just to listen to that, because that would be, and I'm gonna put my name, and I'm gonna think of like 8 pages of in quotation mark stuff that Josh, and then he reads a novel, Hayes.
Oh.
Yeah. No. I'm pretty sure there's a character limit in the name field there.
Oh, is it like Twitter? But it's 240 now, and you can say a lot with 240 characters.
No, it's not the characters. It's the number of characters they allow you to have for the name.
That's
right. What I'm saying.
Right. That's where they've been sticking that at. Well, I'm gonna have to read your story from a few credits more, because I am way behind on my reading. I've been crushed by deadlines, and I'm only just now climbing out from under it myself. I've got a collaboration book with Glenn Stewart that comes out about the same time as the one that we're going to be talking about with you comes out. So I feel your pain in the chaos.
Yes, and we had Glenn on the show, and he talked a lot about the Vengeance story, and I think that's really cool what you guys are doing with that.
Oh, I totally have to go listen to that. I've been so behind in everything that I'm listening to. I knew he'd been on your show, but I didn't actually listen to it. So he was probably trash talking, but that's okay.
I'm fairly certain he said a few bad words when
I would.
Terry.
That damn Terry. That's exactly what I would have said. Well,
I say
tell
that
us
every
about
episode.
It's true. He doesn't even wait for the recording to start before he's saying it.
he's saying it while he's dialing you up. Damn it, Terry, talk to him again.
Every week.
Every week. So you've got something new coming out that this is the big reveal for. You've already revealed it elsewhere, I'm sure, but this is the reveal to the audience here. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. So I'll give a little backstory then if that's okay. And then
Sure, rock on.
So one of the first guests we had on the show, like I think within the first 10 guests was Richard Fox. And if you guys aren't familiar with him, he's a military science fiction author. He writes the Ember War series. He's won the Dragon Award for Iron Dragoons last year for best military sci-fi. And we had him on the show, and then we just kind of started a friendship with him and talked back and forth. And he's been on the show several times. And at the beginning of this year, he, out of the blue, kind of sent a message to us and said, "Hey, are you guys looking to go full time at some point?" And Scott and I were both like, "Well, yeah, duh. That's the whole point of this thing." And he said, "What would you guys need to go full time?" And we kind of talked back and forth in a little while. And he said, "Well, if you could write a story in my universe, what would you do? If I give you like several ideas, what would you pick?" And I was like, I don't know, man. And he kind of listed off these ideas, and I said, "Well, this would probably be really cool." And he said, "All right, let's do that." And after that, we started talking about the specifics and collaboration, and it was a life-changing project. It is a life-changing project, and basically, he and I are writing a series called Terra Nova, and that's also the title of the first novel. And I don't know if you've ever read the Ember War series, but I can't remember which book it is, but it's 6, 7, or 8. His brother Jared leaves on an expedition. The Koresh, an alien being in his series, gives humanity a coordinates to go to this far off planet in a galaxy that's out of the Milky Way, and they said there's no enemies over here. There's nothing bad that's going to happen. You guys can go over there and basically start a second human civilization, just in case the Zaros overtake everything here. And the Zaros were the big aliens in that series, enemies. So this story starts about 20 years after the Zaros war has ended. And Hale is not in the Strike Marines anymore. He started a kind of a spec ops type military unit called the Pathfinders, and now he is in charge of the second expedition to Terra Nova. And he's married and he has kids now, and he's taking the second expedition to kind of assist and build up more, and obviously he wants to reconnect with his brother. And so the beginning of the book, and the way that it works is they jump through these stargates, which are called crucibles, but because it's so far away, hand wavium and magnetic and space-time continuum and all that stuff, you can only go there like once every few decades, and the math has to line up correctly. And so this is the first time that they've been able to go since the first colony went. And so they get there expecting to find a thriving colony that's been there for 20 years, and it's empty and there's nobody there. And they come across these alien beings that are attacking them, and they don't know why. And that's the story focuses on a Pathfinder called, her name is Catherine Carson, who's the main character, the main POV character. And she leads a small team of Pathfinders, and it's their story of figuring out what happened to the colonists, what happened to the colony, and it's gonna the first book, you learn all that stuff and you learn who the enemies are, and then it will proceed into, we've got a 5-book series planned So the first book comes out November 28th. All things working out well. We'll see. When you work with somebody, and Terry, you might understand this a little bit too, is when you collaborate with somebody, especially who you're the junior member of the collaboration. I say junior member, but you're not the controlling partner of the collaboration. And basically all I did was sit and type, and then I send all things to him, and then he sends it back and like, what do you think about this? And he's like, good, click. and so he's the one that's handling all the publishing and all the cover art and the editing and all that. So we're coming to 8 days down, and I don't know when this will air, but it's 8 days from today, which is Monday, November 20th. And I've only seen half of the final manuscript before it goes to edits. So the other half is still with Richard. And it's just very like, oh, woo.
The 2 works that I've done with Glenn so far have been very much like that. Though we do go over every change we make to the manuscript as we go. As I'm writing, he's getting the chapters and he's making commentary and changing things as I'm going along. The 2 books that we've done thus far have been ones that I've taken something he wrote when he was 20 years old and rewrote it and expanded it. So it's not a new production. It's a rewritten one. If indeed there are more between him and I have no idea how it's going to work, whether I'll end up writing the first half, he writes the second half, we do something else. God only knows.
Right.
But he's definitely the senior partner in those, because he's got the bigger audience than I do.
Oh yeah.
And, I'm perfectly fine with being the junior member of that pair.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm completely there with you, man. Richard is like, let's do this, and I'm like, that sounds fantastic, man. Let's do that. And it's an awesome project to work on, and it was fun to write something and then not really have to worry about the finished product. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. Like I've done my other stuff where I'm like completely and utterly in control of everything, and I finish and I'm like, oh, I don't want to hit the publish button. But at this, I can just, I'm done. Here you go, and then I'm done. My hands are clean. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, that is kind of freeing to have that happen. Looking at the title, I immediately thought of the television series of the same name.
Right, and we thought about that when we named it. But if people like that series and they're looking for it on Amazon, they'll see this book too, and so they're like, yeah, maybe we'll get that book too. So
there's some similarities to it as well, because you're talking about having to go through the portal to get back to the other galaxy. That's very much like going through this rift in time to go back into prehistory. Is yours a one-way trip?
It for right now it's a one-way trip, because you have to have a crucible gate to start to initiate the journey. You don't have to have one to land, you just have to have one to take off. So for now it's a one-way trip. Whether or not they create another little gate here at Terra Nova, that's something else that we may explore as we go through the series.
I think that those 2 similarities are some of the big draws that I had that attracted me to watching that one season they made of Terra Nova, the show. Yeah. Is because it's a big jump to some place that's far beyond where they can ever come back.
Right.
And I love that idea of taking your characters and just heaving them over the transom and letting them find out what they land on the other side is not what they thought it was going to be.
Exactly. And that was one of the reasons that I really enjoyed that idea. And it's in some senses, it's easier to work on this project than it would be. So like Scott's project takes place in the Milky Way galaxy, and a lot of things that happen in his story coincide with a lot of things that will happen in Richard's continuing story. So his and their series right now, the first book is called the Dotari Salvation. And so the Daltari Salvation and Iron Dragoons, those 2 series will run side by side basically. And so Scott and him really have to watch what's going on in both series to make sure that they aren't kind of stepping on each other's toes and doing wrong things. I can just do what the hell I want to do, and it doesn't matter because no one knows what's happening over here in the other series.
Yeah, continuity would be a real challenge with something like the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so from what you said, he approached you kind of out of the blue with the collaboration on that. Is this, do you think, going to be just the beginning of many other collaborations? Is this going to be like the Richard Fox multiverse?
You mean like if other authors are going to join in on the?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that.
I don't know. I asked him that too. So right now he's just got Scott and I that are working with him. Right now, both of us have 5-book contracts. Whether or not we write more books in the universe, we'll see. If it does well and people want to read more, then we may do more. But he didn't want to get too carried away and then lose control and then be so behind on, because he still wants to write his books. And I think he's very observant of, if I pull 10 people in to write 10 different stories in my universe, are we going to overwhelm the readers with all of the stuff? And am I going to get overwhelmed in editing and making sure the storylines are flowing correctly and doing everything that I want to do in the universe? So I think it's possible. He hasn't mentioned to me though whether or not he wants to bring in any more writers in the short term.
Yeah, and I was only curious because I've seen a number of authors doing similar sorts of thing and slowly growing their sandbox to include other authors writing in their universe. And I think this is maybe the 3rd or the 4th person I've heard doing this. And the more I hear it, the more I'm going, am I missing out on here? Should I be looking around for somebody to write in the Empire of Bones universe?
Well, so I can tell you, I was approached by Jasper T. Scott, who writes the Dark Space books, and he wanted to start his own kind of similar thing. And I sent him a sample of my work. It's one of the first short stories I wrote, and he read it and said, "I absolutely love this. As soon as I start, you're the first one. You're in." And I said, "Fantastic." And then a couple months later, after he did a whole bunch of research, he was like, "Nope, that's way too much work. I don't want to do that. If I ever do it again, you're the first person I'll call." But it never went anywhere. And I can understand definitely how much work that would be and it would be a massive project. I am doing another collaboration in a series that's very popular right now, except I can't say
Talk
what
about
it is.
Gotcha.
And that collaboration will come out at the beginning of this next year. And I have a 1-book contract to write in that universe. So, and that's
I have a suspicion.
Ooh, suspicions and secrets.
I have a suspicion. When we're done recording, I'll run it by you and see if my guess is in the ballpark, because cool. I suspect I have an idea on that.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Paul, jump in here, man. Wake up. Wake up.
I'm here. You've been interviewing. What?
I know I have. Jump in. Ask a question. Do something. Be a co-host, damn it.
No.
Do we need to get sock puppets and like?
Yeah, that might help. Put a sock. Nah, it sounds like another book I wrote. Never mind.
Kermit with a hand up is what?
Yeah. Ooh, Doc, the whole fist. Yeah. I was thinking about how Scott Sigler, how many different authors he worked with for the GFL series. Me being the most problematic one, apparently.
Troublemaker.
Yeah, trying to keep everything straight and having the problem of being so OCD that, had to go in and think and do everything, even though, I created an outline, sent sample chapters, did all this other kind of stuff. And then they kind of cut you loose on things. And, you give updates as to how you're going and everything else. And, things happen. Things happen. It's just so far the two of you have had a much better experience with it than I have. So.
Well, and it started it started off really, I don't want to say rocky, but it was a huge learning curve to try to figure out how we were going to do it. And because there are some collaborations that you can do, and I've seen other world building collaborations where they say, this is the world Bible. Don't worry about anything. You write your story.
Right. Yeah.
You can put it on a planet that you don't have to worry about connecting it to anything. Just do your own thing. There you go. And Richard is not. He's not one of those collaborators. He knows the story that he wants to tell, and so with this first book, we both brainstormed kind of the major plot points, and then he wrote the complete outline from beginning to end, and I wrote it. And there was a lot of things that I had to change in the outline as we started writing it that didn't fit, and there was also a couple things that I changed that, because after you get into the draft and you start learning who these characters are,
Yep.
they might not do what you have outlined for them to do in the outline. So I changed a lot of that. I sent him the first draft of the outline. He made some changes in some of the way the information was presented. He came back to me with 2 scenes that he wanted changed, one scene that he wanted changed, and one scene that he wanted a brand new scene. And that was just recently. He sent me a message and said, "We need to have a scene here, and they need to do this." And I'm like, "But we don't have any characters there." And he said, "Make some characters and do the scene." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Make some meat puppets and put them in there. What's the problem?
Make the magic happen.
Yeah, it's true. And so I said,
I need
okay.
a cigar for when I'm I need a cigar for when I'm doing that. I got to have a pen here. Make it happen.
Doesn't every writer keep like an entire closet full of red shirt uniforms? I mean,
yeah, it's true. And I actually made J.R. Hanley the captain that is in charge of this whole thing, this whole cluster of an operation that happens. And but it is true. He came to me and he said, "Okay, we need 4,000 words of this and go." And I was like, "Richard, I have no idea what I'm going to write, because I had never thought of this scene in the book before." And so I had to spend about 2 hours outlining and kind of visualizing what was happening, and then I sent him the scene. But it's been a big learning curve, and as the series goes, I think as I start to get more ingrained into his series, I think it's going to be more of a, by book 3, I'm sure that I'll be doing the whole outline and the whole book, and he'll send it in. He'll be like, "Yes, that's good." And so it'll be progressively more me than right now. It's more of like a 60-40, me being the 60 and Richard being the 40, but he's got the name and the readers. So
I know that Glenn did an outline for what we were doing, and then we hashed out where we thought things were going from there, at which point I started writing and radically departed from everything that we had wrote down, just keeping the end in mind. So I meandered away from the outline almost immediately. And thankfully he says that's how he is as well. So as long as the two of us keep in mind where we're going at the end, we're in good shape.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
With J.R. Hanley, though, as one of your characters, I hope you denied him a gory death. The bastard wants everyone to kill him.
No, he's alive, and he does not die. He's still alive, and so he'll probably turn up in book 2. Although I think I need to come up with like a nice ending for him. Like maybe we can send him off into the forest with a convent of monks or something, and he has to be celibate for his whole life. He takes up religion or something, and
that's awesome.
Instead of going down in flames, he goes off and puts on a robe and he's a monk or something.
It's like what they do with the character they have in the Bane universe, where everybody and their third cousin is killing him. Are you familiar with that guy? A number of the authors there had picked one guy who's a real person that they all started killing off in various gory fashions in their completely unrelated novels.
Nice.
And there was, I can't remember his name right now, and I'm sure it'll come to me in a minute, but one person went ahead and wrote him in and has had him in 4 books now and keeps putting him in these things that people should not be able to survive and then pulling him out of it.
That's awesome.
I like that. I would never do that to my to the folks.
You just kill off your characters. You don't care about that.
Joe
Buckley. The character's name was Joe Buckley.
Yeah, Joe Buckley.
Nice.
Bane even put out a book, The Many Deaths of Joe Buckley, with all of the various death scenes that he has. It's ridiculous.
I need to do that with Thomas Reed. That's going to happen.
He appears as a toe-tagged body. You don't actually kill him off. I'm pretty sure you just stick the body back in the fridge and drag it back out when you need it again.
He reanimates the corpse every couple of years.
Yeah, the problem is it's all different injuries. So yeah, that's the only issue.
So
Yeah.
I just searched that many deaths of Joe Buckley thing, and the cover on it is like some 16th century cover with all these like uppity people on it and some dead guy on the table. That's awesome.
One of the authors that writes that, his name is Eric Flint, and he writes a series called 1632, where it's the Ring of Fire, and he's killed Joe Buckley. So this is actually a cover that's related to Joe Buckley's death in the 1632 universe.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hey, wow. Well, Thomas Reed, let's see. He's been in Closet Treats, Gare's Inferno, Derelict, and The Black. So yeah.
J.R. Handley begged me to kill him in a short story, and he wanted it bloody and gory. So I had my main character hit him with a plasma rifle. There wasn't a speck of anything left. No blood, no gore, no body, all gone.
Not even change rattling off of his
Not
empty pockets.
Change rattling on the floor.
Yeah, I expect that JR dies in many, many books.
He wants to beat Joe Buckley. He's already stated that as his objective, to die more times than Joe Buckley.
No. Oh,
Nice.
Nice. Which is why I keep denying him now.
I have a character that I don't ever kill off, but he's always in the book. He's always in a part of my books or stories as a secondary character or a main character. His name's always the same. It's kind of like the you guys remember the Final Fantasy games where they had Sid, who was always like a tertiary scientist or something in the games, and his name was always Sid, and he was always in every Final Fantasy game. Well,
yeah, so he's info dump Sam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've got a character that I do that with, and drop his name every once in a while. That's good.
It's like Clive Cussler appearing in his own novels.
Yes, absolutely.
What? You didn't know that?
No, yeah. I've never read
every Clive Cussler novel. He will run into the main character will run into Clive Cussler. He never seems to remember him. They never seem to remember each other, but Dirk Pitt always runs into Clive Cussler.
So it's Stan Lee.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Or when Stephen King writes himself into the Dark Tower.
No, Trigger, don't do it. Trigger. The Dark Tower consists of 5 books. That's it.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. Completely agree with you.
So don't trigger me. Don't trigger me, man.
Well, just because Paul asked not to be triggered. So do you think the Dark Tower is going to have a sequel? And of course, I mean the movie.
Not a sequel series.
I meant what I said.
You know,
I went triggering phrase.
I went to see that movie with every intention of not bringing my biases from the book with me to watch.
That worked out for you.
And I sat down and watched it, and the beginning was all right, and then the end came, and I was like, "That was the end? What the hell was that?
What?
That was it?" Was that? And yeah, you know,
it's the same way the Akira movie was a commercial for the comic book.
Yes,
that's what this was.
Well, you know, I could take away all the nuance of the characters when you completely change the identity of the main character, and it takes so much of the nuance away from the other characters that I went in completely okay with. All right, it's going to be this, and it's just the movie was just horrible. My God,
and I enjoyed it for what it was, and of course the coolest thing was, if you've read a lot of Stephen King's, library, you were just waiting for the memes and the hits there, and they were all over the place.
The cool Easter eggs, like the sign with the Pennywise sign,
the Pennywise Carnival, the whole. I mean, there was all that stuff, and you look, there's different street names, and there was pictures of this, pictures of that, references to The Shining. I mean, it was like Cujo, and it was all over the place.
Yeah, that was neat. I'm a hardcore Dark Tower fan from the Gunslinger on, including the other books that we don't speak of, and Only because the first time I completely read the series from beginning to end, I got to the end of the 7th book and hated it and absolutely was so
I
mad.
haven't read it.
Okay, I won't spoil it for you.
Oh, and people have tried.
But I read the end of the last book and absolutely hated it and threw the book across the room. And then a couple weeks later, I was sitting, I can't even remember what I was doing, and it hit me, and it was like like getting shot in the head, and I was like, holy crap, he's a genius. And I went back and opened the Gunslinger and read the Gunslinger again, and it completely blew my mind. So it was that's the only reason for that transition. Yeah. But yeah, the Song of Susanna and the Wolves of the Collar are not. I stop every time I get through Wizard and Glass. I'm like, yeah, that was a good story. Done.
Yeah, I've read all of them multiple times except for Kala, Susanna, and I haven't read the last one at all.
If you don't buy the book for this, but if you ever get a chance to pick up the last book, read the final chapter. Just that when Roland enters the Dark Tower and goes into the Dark Tower, from that on, read it. Because that chapter makes the book. And Stephen King actually stops. The book ends, and then Stephen King has this little thing where he's like, if you like happy endings, stop now.
Okay.
If you don't like happy endings, continue and read what happens. And so, yeah, I would suggest doing that because that makes the series for me.
Yes, but I don't believe in happy endings.
Oh, it's not a happy ending. Not when you read the second part. It's not. Trust me, it's not.
See, I went and saw this movie as somebody that is not a fan of Stephen King's work, and I've never read any of The Dark Tower. So all of that went over my head, and I watched it and went, that was all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful movie.
Right.
But so all the Stephen King people are freaking out on the internet. I'm going, I thought it was all right.
No, and that was the thing. While I was watching, I was like, well, if you don't know anything about the Dark Tower, it's actually kind of cool because you don't have all the baggage, right?
Right, exactly.
I kind of like what they were going for and hated it at the same time. And I understand why they did it, to have basically the focus is on Jake.
Right.
Jake is the one seeing the world, so we don't get a huge info dump. We're as lost as everybody else. And, and even to a certain degree, Roland seemed completely lost.
Yeah.
But they covered some of those things very well. But man, if I was going to try and bring Dark Tower to TV, I would do one book per season, 6 to 8 episodes, and do it as verbatim as you could.
Yep. And the thing is they try to take, even if they had changing Roland from looking like Clint Eastwood, which is exactly how they described him in the books, to Idris Elba, which I think is a phenomenal actor. But it's like they took all 7 books of this decade-long thing and slammed him into an hour and a half. And you're like, yeah, they should have just done the Gunslinger, the first book, and called it square.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely. I like this guy. Where'd you get him again?
That's such a cool dude.
He found me, so I can't claim finding him.
That's true. I did. I read Empire of Bones, the first book, and I was like,
sorry, we
need to have him on the show.
I do get better.
I have the audiobook still, but I'm in the middle of your nemesis.
You're never going to finish that book. 55 hours, it's never going to happen.
He's not a nemesis. Just if a book goes over 350 pages now, I think Terry just his eyes kind of start to cross.
So do you guys listen to audiobooks? Yeah.
I pretty much solely listen to audiobooks at this point. So yeah,
I'm a huge audiobook junkie. That's how I do all my reading. I have a Paperwhite that I read for 5 minutes before I pass out at night. But so I have, I don't know, 200 audiobooks on my phone. And this audiobook is the only one that refused to download as one part.
Wow.
It put it as 5 parts. It would not do one. And even Words of Radiance in the Way of Kings is 1 part. And this one was like, nope, 5 parts. Here you go.
That's awesome. I see you've got the fold over your shoulder. It's on my reading list. I've got almost 100 books in my Audible account to listen to. I added it up on a spreadsheet. I've got 756 hours, 65 hours, 765 hours of audiobook to listen to.
Yeah.
I will never finish.
The fold was very good. I'm interested to read his new one, The Paradigm, whatever it is. But yeah, I most of my audiobook listening is spent driving to work and then doing the dishes, because for some reason my wife makes me do that, and
And you
appease her.
capitulate. You give in like a wise man.
It's true. It's true. Like, I had to clean the garage so she could park her car in the garage because it's starting to get cold, and so
So much for that man cave.
yeah. No, I'm in debate. I got relegated. I had a room upstairs, and then we decided to have Carter, our newest child, and then I got kicked out of his room.
So basically, what you're saying is that you're wearing a hunting jacket, but you have a Shih Tzu. You've been kicked down to the basement. You don't even have a garage.
Yep.
Oh, this is not looking good for you, my friend.
Yep. Oh, we have a walk-in closet, and this was a minor victory for me. So follow along. My wife, when I first met my wife, she had a closet, one whole closet dedicated to her jeans. And these jeans were sorted by color. They were shade, yeah. And so my wife has tons and tons of clothes. Well, this year I had a victory and got like a space in the walk-in closet like this to hang my uniforms in. And everything else is down here on a shelf or in the laundry basket. And she's got all the rest of the space. But I had a victory this year and got a little bit of space in the walk-in closet.
Sounds like that joke, you know, when a married couple gets together, the wife wants to do A, the husband wants to do B, and then they compromised. And basically you did what the wife wanted.
Did A, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly true. Yeah,
you know, I laugh about it, but that's exactly how it works out.
That's why you have to learn for your spouse to think it was their idea.
Right, the reverse psychology thing.
How has that worked out for you, Paul?
Never, but I try.
That's about what I thought.
I try.
Okay, we need to drag this sucker back, and we've like every other conversation we've had, we've wandered off into La La Land, having a good time talking about whatever popped up. Let's drag it back to your novel here. You've got Terra Nova that's going to be coming out in fairly short order.
Yep.
Have you already started writing the second one?
We have not. He just sent me a message as we were talking that said we need another scene. So after I get talking with you guys, I've got to figure out what I'm going to write next.
How many days till this goes to press?
8. So
what could possibly go wrong?
Right. So I've got to work on that. But no, I have an idea. We know what we're going to do. We have most of the major plot points ironed out for book 2. It's just how do we get from point A to point B to point C. I had a whole bunch of stuff prepared, and then he decided, let's go somewhere else over here. And so now we're just kind of working it out before we do an outline. And actually, after he gets this done, he's going to work on reorganizing the outline, and I'll probably start in December on the second book.
That sounds awesome. This show is delayed a week, so you're actually this episode is going to air right about the time the book is coming out.
Oh, excellent.
Although the patrons are getting it right. Well,
the patrons will get it this week.
Yeah.
They'll get the audio this week, and the show will actually go live next week around that time. If folks have not read any other part of the Ember Wars saga, can they jump right into yours?
Absolutely. You can. We have some things that are callbacks to the original series. There's some characters, like for instance, Ken, who's the main character of the entire series. He is in this book, but he is not a main character. He's the director, and he's in control of everything, but the main character is Carson and her team of Pathfinders. And so, not knowing anything about the Ember War, or the Zaros, or whatever, you can get in this and read it, and you'll pick up, that they're talking about things that happened in the past that you may not know about, but that's okay. Because if you want to go back and read the Ember War, you'll say, hey, they were talking about this in Terra Nova, and that makes sense for this back here in the Ember War. But no, you don't have to read that. And I think that was part of Richard's plan, going with the 3 spinoffs, is like with Iron Dragoons, you really don't have to read the Ember War, and with Terra Nova you don't, and with the Dotari Salvation you don't. So there's 4 different starting points that it's someone coming into the series can read a series, and then if they like that, they can go back and read the other one, and that you don't have to worry about conflicting timelines or anything like that.
I've got Iron Dragoons in my audio pile to listen to at some point, but I've never actually read any of his other work. So yet one more thing that I need to add to my pile.
I listened to the Ember War, the first publisher's pack, and right after listening to that book is when we invited him on to come on the show. And Luke Daniels did a phenomenal job with the 9-book series, and then I can't remember if he's doing Iron Dragoons or not. I know Mark Boyette is doing some of his work, but now I can't remember who's doing Iron Dragoons.
I didn't put the narrator in my spreadsheet, so I don't know.
And there are, I guess Podium is already putting feelers out for our series too, and we assumed that they were. Whether or not it comes out sooner than later, I don't know, but I know that they're interested, so that's cool.
I'll definitely add that to my listening pile. I'm gonna have to go to the gym, 2 hours a day instead of 1 hour. I am never gonna catch up.
Yeah, a lot of times I got yelled at this because we had Luke Daniels on our show, and we were talking about his narration and stuff, and I said I made the mistake of saying a lot of times I'll put it on 1.5 speed.
Oh, and you're still breathing?
And he goes, "That's a work of art," or "That's something of he was." I was like, "No, I didn't. Back that up."
You should say, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go before the show goes live, we're going to go back and we're going to put you at this part of the show at 1.5 speed, just so that everybody can hear how it sounds to me."
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I immediately regretted saying that. I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that at all." It's like saying you read your favorite author. Now, I got like you so much, I skimmed through most of your book. I skimmed through most of it. I know probably what 3 of the characters did.
And that's all we're going to talk about.
And that's it. That's it. Great ending, by the way.
It's like the big character that's in the Harry Potter series, the one that's the big dark-haired guy. I can't even remember his name.
Hagrid.
Hagrid saying something, going, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that."
I should
not have said that. Oh. Yes, exactly. So that was my open mouth, stick foot in it moment.
When you have a co-host is actually the producer of the show, yeah, you gotta be a little careful because there are little things we can do when editing is going on that
right.
Yeah. The bad thing for me is that even if I did something like that, Terry would have to hear about it because he wouldn't see it because he doesn't watch the show.
I'm here. Why would I need to listen to the show again? I'm hearing it as it happens.
So he has no idea what goes.
He could be putting any kind of thing in the show, and I would have no idea.
I could put flying, I don't know, unicorns dispensing Metamucil in the middle of it, and he'd have no clue.
So cool.
I double dog dare you to do that.
There are a lot of times, and I don't know, Paul, if you get this or not from from running the show, but there are a lot of times where we'll have a guest on, and I'll get the audio done, and I'll get the feed on my phone, and I'll listen to it, and in the middle of listening to it, I don't remember saying that, and I don't remember the guest answering that question at all, and so sometimes it's a completely new experience. I'm like, wow,
that's one of the things when editing, I'm like, the hell were we talking about? Because I do skip editing, and then I come back and I go, when did we talk about that?
So what you're saying is basically you're going to have my intro and then cut everything out and go straight to the end where you're talking about unicorns with Terry, and that's the whole show.
No, I've got 3 possible bumpers to cut out of this show today to put at the very beginning of the shows. I mean, it's been a busy day as far as that goes. I have 3 good snips that I can keep around. If I'm ever without a snip again, I'll just dig back in the library. Oh yeah, that one. We'll put that in there.
We totally don't have any filters, so we just say whatever comes to mind, and then it ends up in the front of the show, even no matter what we were thinking when we were doing it.
Completely out of context. Just completely out of context. And it's been a gag. I think Justin started doing that with the podcast. I think Justin started doing that.
Yeah, he did.
So I kind of kept the tradition alive.
we're going to start a bit in season 3 for our show that for every guest that we have on, once we go off live, we're going to record them reading their favorite 1-star reviews. and then, and then we're going to do a quarterly compilation of your favorite authors reading their favorite 1-star reviews. And Scott's favorite 1-star review is nope. And that's it. That's the entire review is nope.
I don't read my reviews, so I would have no idea what to do with that. That's
basically the mean tweets kind of deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
That's
it'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
All right. It was a lot of fun having you on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find Richard so they can go rush right out as they're hearing this and look for this book?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me at my website that I very rarely update. It's joshhayeswriter.com. I really should update it because it still has the second book of my series on the landing page, and it should have the third, but whatever. You can find me most of the time on Facebook. It's just Josh Hayes, or you can search Keystroke Medium. We're the only keystroke medium on Google and on Facebook. So if you find one that's likely us, unless somebody in China is stealing the name and doing something weird. And if that's the case, let me know, because that does need to happen. You can find Richard at Richard Fox Author on Facebook, and I think just richardfox.com, but let me double check that because I don't want to give you the wrong information. And if I have the link for you before you guys go live, with this, when you put it out, I'll send it to you. Definitely.
That sounds good. We can
please.
make that happen. Yes, we're actually, the shows usually go out on Wednesday, so it should be after your publication date.
Okay. So it's richardfoxauthor.com is his.
Okay.
And so the 28th should be the good date. And then we'll be pushing hard in the first week of December, and we've got a lot of good things happening, so hopefully we'll see a lot of success. Hopefully, so we can keep writing.
Yeah, good luck.
Absolutely. I hope you kick butt on this sucker, and I look forward to checking it out. I suspect you're going to be my entrance into this universe.
That would be
no pressure.
No, yeah. If anything you don't hate about the book, Richard wrote that part.
Oh.
Oh no, I said that wrong. Anything you don't like about the book, that's the part that Richard wrote.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, folks. If you've got something that you'd like to pass on to us about this episode, some question that for some reason you'd like to filter through us rather than contacting Josh directly, send us a note at show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find us on Twitter at DRS, not DRS Podcast. I got confused. Paul_E_Cooley, because I'm too old for Twitter. I'm too old.
People really
You're also too old to use spell check. Why the hell did you spell dinosaur?
I was going to ask you if I spelled dinosaur right when we started this, and you wait till the end of the show to tell me that it's been there the entire time. We're going to have to redo.
Because now it's funny.
Let's do the episode over again.
Now it's funny.
Now I'm definitely going to subscribe to your Patreon, and my name is Josh. Terry can't fucking spell Hayes.
Yes, there we go. There we go.
There you go. That pretty well rocks out.
Yeah, somebody's going to put that in next week's Patreon.
If they don't,
that's coming.
You're going to add it, even if it's not there. I just know that's what's going to happen.
That's awesome.
You can also find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where everybody comes and answers your questions and tells me that I can't spell, because that's pretty much how it is. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS Podcast. You can find us on Patreon and support the show at patreon.com/DRS Podcast. Of course, we have to mention the good folks at podhoster.com, who host almost 500 episodes of this madness for you to listen to. And of course, we have to thank our $10 patrons for supporting us. Why, I couldn't tell you, but we're going to thank them anyway.
And our $10 patrons are Caleb, Big Bad Baby Buggy Bumpers and Bodacious Boobs James. You just have to keep trying to top yourself, don't you, Caleb? Good God. Nathan is wondering why he was paying for the Great Cornholio Petty. Hey, that was the same one as last week. Get on this, man. Drew, Deer Destroyer Bernardi. Yes, Drew, I'm glad you're okay after that deer decided to get in your way. John Kilgallen, Chris Winder, Isabel, a good attempt, but not sufficient. Cooley Cushy. Yes, I know what that's in reference to. They're the one that wanted me to hold a Zarusen for about 75 minutes. Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, Jonathan Zarusen, J.R. Handley, and Sue Bayman.
Thanks, folks, for supporting us, because this show would not be the same without you here to help us. Because if it was just the two of us, it would totally suck. And on that note, folks, you have a great week, and we will see you later.
Thanks for coming on, Josh.
Oh, guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye.